Hey everybody, Coach Brian from LACROSSE again. It's been part 2 of our video tutorial on how to string these traditional pockets. So, first part we just worked on stringing this top portion. We'll get that nice and tight, like a tennis racket, like a girl's stick. Nice and tight up there. Now we're going to start blowing out these leathers, forming our pocket. So, we're going to start by loosening up these leathers in the back. And if you guys did a min-lax bottom string, it's really easy. And if not, well, that's okay, we'll teach you anyway. So with the min-lax bottom string, all you have to do is kind of put your fingernail in towards the middle, maybe even getting 2 on there or a thumbnail, and kind of pull down on that loop. And as you're pulling down, kind of pull up on that leather. It's going to let it go. And then to kind of tighten it, just bring that back up top. So we're going to loosen that out, and we can loosen this one a little bit more. I'll let you guys see the depth I'm getting here. So I'm just pushing down that min-lax bottom string and blowing this out. Again, we're going to move into the next string, and so again, using that min-lax bottom string, pulling down on it almost like a switch, opens it up, and we want these middle leathers to hang out a little bit more than our outside leathers, because that's going to give us that pocket depth and that channel definition. Alright, same thing, go over to this next one, loosen that up. Trying to keep these as even as possible, but there'll be plenty of time in the end to make sure everything's perfect. And that's probably a little bit too much. Well, it's awful close. It also helps to make sure your leathers are the same length at the bottom, so you can kind of check those to make sure everything's lined up. If one end's longer than the other, you need to make some adjustments. Alright, we've just got one more to do, so we'll loosen this min-lax bottom string again by pushing down and just pulling that leather up. Alright, again, I want to make sure these 2 outer leathers are pulled out the same distance and the inner leathers are the same. But these 2 inners, we definitely want to hang out a little bit more, so I'm going to give you the side profile. 2 inner leathers can stretch out further than our outer leathers. And that looks fairly close to even, add a little more depth, one of our middles. And once again, this is something, the more you do, the easier this is to start eyeballing. I like to kind of look down the top, make sure everything's lined up nice and straight. And there'll be plenty of time as we're stringing to make corrections on this. So if you don't get it right just now, as long as it's not just absolutely horrible, you'll be able to limp along and we can fix it in the end. It's definitely important, so I'm going to check the bottom, make sure my leathers are the same length. So these 2 tips should be in the same spot at the ends, and they are. And check my others, and those 2 are lining up. So we're in good shape here, and again, we can make some corrections at the end if we need it. Alright, so now we're going to work on the first section on each side. So again, any mistakes we make, as long as it's not too bad, we can always fix it while we're changing it up and tightening stuff at the end. So we're just going to think back in time. If you had a time machine, now's a great chance to use it. Although if you had a time machine, you're probably going to use it for more important stuff, learn how to string a lacrosse stick, like, you know, gambling, sports stuff. Anyway, we're going to grab our string from over here, back to those old knots we were doing. We're going to go around the front of the leather, and again, you guys are looking at the front of the stick, I'm looking at the back. We're going to bring it around the leather, through this gap we've created, pull that slack through. Now it gets a little trickier because our leathers aren't tight and they're going to be able to kind of free floating. So we're going to kind of hold it in place with our fingers. Kind of, remember, we want this knot on the leather to be right in the middle of our hole on this side wall and our hole on this side wall. We're going to keep it there, and we don't want to pull this as tight because our pocket's going to start sagging out to the back. So I'll show you what this is going to look like on the side. Finish this off by coming through the next hole in the side wall, pulling the slack around. And again, if we pull this too tight, this is going to pinch over. We don't want that. So make sure that stays kind of loose through there. And then we're going to bring our side wall again through that gap we made, and bring it around the front. And again, if it gets kind of twisted or bunched up, just kind of spin it around your fingers and you can loosen it. So now we can already look from the side and the back, start to see some of this definition that we're starting to get here. So this is going to be that pocket and this channel coming out. So now we're just going to kind of continue. Again, I'll let you guys look at the front. I'll be checking out the back end. So we're going to bring our string around, come out. Another thing I like to do is kind of get a finger, maybe it's this part of the knuckle, right in there in the leather, kind of hold that out, and then another one kind of coming in. I guess I can show you from the side maybe without twisting my wrist, kind of pushing out to space this right here with the leathers. So again, you guys are looking from the middle, bring the leather around the front, through here, and again, I'm just looking to find this gap in the middle of the leather between the two holes in the sidewall. We're not trying to pull it too tight so that the leather gets pulled to the right towards the sidewall, or that we take away some of this pocket in the channel, the definition that we're starting to create. I want to find that happy medium, and again, it's going to take you a couple times stringing these to get used to it, where it's pretty easy and you kind of know where everything's going to go. But until then, just keep trying it. Alright, so once again, got that. I'm just going to come into the first hole here on the side. It's open. Bring my slack through. And again, this is where I kind of hold my fingers out in here to kind of keep that definition of the pocket. And now I'm going to come in through this gap here on the side, in the channel, or that gap we created, and kind of pull this guy off. And again, while we're tightening it, kind of hold these leathers out so that it doesn't pull the whole channel and this whole pocket in. We don't want it to collapse on us. So we're going to keep going now out to this next one. Again, I'm going in front of the leather, and we want to make sure that this leather is staying nice and straight, coming up and down, and it's not getting pulled over this way. So just keep checking periodically, give yourself a nice bird's eye view looking straight down. So again, give you guys a side view now as I'm tying this one. So again, I'm going in front of this leather, coming around the side here, and it's going to go, there it is. Coming around here, finding my gap, and this end comes down. So spin that around so you guys can see the inside part again. And again, I'm used to stringing these from one angle. This is new, and I'm left-handed, so if something just looks horribly backwards, or you're sitting there at home going, "How's he doing it like that?" Magic. I'm left-handed. So again, we're going to bring it into this next stringing hole down here, and this is on the bottom. Kind of bring it in there, and I'm going to go ahead, of course, finish off by coming back through our gap and pull that down. Now at this point, we can kind of keep going, finish this side here, but I'm going to go ahead and do this side, do the first three on here, just kind of keep it even as we go down. Again, not that big a deal, just kind of personal habit. That's how I do them. So we'll get going with this. Kind of line us up a little bit better. So again, you can see me working on this section right through here. Alright, so once again, we're going to kind of tease this out a little bit. You might need to loosen this first knot that you did, add a little more slack so that it's starting to ease up that tennis racket feel. But again, we're going to bring the string in front of this leather, around from the side, through this gap that we created, pull that slack through. Again, we want to try and hit this middle point in between our two holes in the sidewall. The one we're going to and the one we came from. Once we have something we like, grab that end, bring it in, try and get my hand out of the way, to our next available hole in the sidewall. Still working on those invisible hands, but it's going to take me a while. Alright. So again, that got a little twisted, so I just spun it around and that pulled those twists right out of there. Again, we want to make sure this is right in the middle. Got that. So now we're going to get the bottom part, bring it back through that gap towards the camera. Whoa! Alright. And then we're going to come back. And again, I kind of like to pull this leather out a little bit. You can get your hands in there, kind of open it up, make sure it's not pulling to one side or the other, but we're keeping the tightness and we're keeping that channel definition. So now I'm going to continue. Bring our string around the front side, getting that down, coming around from the back, through our gap, and we're going to pull this guy tight. Alright, again, make sure we're keeping this curl coming out, so you can start to see our pocket, how it's going to form here. Also important, keep keeping those bird's eye, look down the top of it, make sure you don't have one leather sticking way out further than the other. If so, make an adjustment and you'll be alright. So again, we're going to finish a couple more on this side. So I'm going to come back into the middle. Go ahead and tighten this guy up a little bit. Alright. So now I'm going to come back down to this open hole, bring my sidewall string in there. Alright, that's coming along, and then again, coming in through this gap down here on the side. And looks like we've got one more on this side to do to keep us even with our far side. So we'll go ahead, keep that in the frame, there we go. And again, this leather's going to come, the string, that was a test, string's going to come from the front, around the front of this leather, and then it's going to come around from the back and through this new gap we just created. And then we'll kind of pull that snug and let it hang down. Again, once you do this for a while, you'll find little tricks where to put your fingers, stuff you can do. If you have smaller hands than I do, some of these might be easier as well. And if you're not trying to keep your hands from blocking all the camera action, it gets easier. Alright, learning how to string, and then learning how to string from the back end with the camera going can be some different skills. So it looks like we finished up going to one more hole in the plastic sidewall. No problem. We'll just finish that up, getting our string here into this plastic hole. Easier said than done. And then I'll just pull that through. And then once again, we come in through that gap. And just kind of pull this down to the side. Alright, so again, if we get a bird's eye view, our leathers are looking pretty even. I'm happy with that. Alright, so now we'll go ahead, I'll go back to the other side and we'll finish going all the way down. First raise this stand up so that you guys can actually see what I'm doing, which makes these video guides a lot more useful. Alright, and I'll still try and get a little more height here. Alright, that looks like it'll be useful. So, again, started to come down here on this side. Spin that way, you can definitely see the definition we're getting through here. Bring that back around, and we'll finish this up. And again, important, we want to make sure our leather's staying nice and straight, that it's not curling in, moving around on us. So, we're just going to keep this up. There you go, again, you can see what we're doing here. Bring it down to this side. So I'm just going to continue what I'm doing. I'm going to bring my string around this first leather again, keeping everything the same. Now we're coming from the back side, going through the gap we created, and we'll kind of pull that in. And again, we're going to keep this in the middle of the leather, in between these two sidewall holes. The one we came out of and the one we're going into. And speaking of the one we're going into, we'll go ahead and go into it right now. So now we're coming into that sidewall hole, make sure we're twisting, getting any loose ends up, make sure you're keeping everything kind of even all the way up. As this moves around, you bump into it, stuff will change, stuff will shift, no big deal, just tighten everything up. So now we're going to come back around from the side, through this gap, and make sure that's holding tight. Alright, and once again, we'll go back in front of the leather, around from behind, through our gap, try and get that right there in the center. And now we're going to bring it back into the hole in the plastic, just like so. And again, make sure kind of keeping this even tension. You want a nice even curl here. You don't want it like shooting straight out and straight back in like an angle. That's no good. Well, I don't know, never done it. It might be amazing, but I bet not. Alright, so back to the task at hand. Go ahead, come through this gap, pull that slack through. And again, as you can see, the longest little set of string right here is right where I want the top, kind of the crescendo of my pocket right there. And then this one and this one should be about the same length, depending on the head. Some might curve a little more, some will curve a little less. And then as it moves up, a little shorter through there, same thing down here, and that gets that curl. And so we'll just finish up by bringing our string around this leather one more time. Now from the back, we'll come through our gap. And again, trying to get that right in the middle. And finally through that last hole in the plastic. Blam. Done. Not really, but for now. So we got that through there. String's hanging out. Nice, good, solid curl. As I look from my bird's eye view, it's nice and straight. It's not shooting off one way, shooting in the other. Since I did that, I want to make sure I adjust everything again. Go so it's all lined up for the next strings coming through. Alright, cool. So there's that part. Nice and beautiful looking. Now we're going to go ahead, spin her around, and do this other side. Again, I like to kind of go back and forth, keep that symmetry. But you can also do one whole side, do this side, then do another section and another section. However you guys want to do it, I'm not going to judge. So, again, let you guys looking in from the inside. I'm looking here at the back. We're going to take our sidewall string. It's going to go in front of our leather here. And then from the back, we go through our gap we just created. Kind of pull this guy through. Make sure, again, we're nice and even in between our two sidewall holes. Making sure this leather is nice and even, and again, my bird's eye view looking straight down, and making sure the leathers are extending out the same, so I don't have like the left one out 2 inches and the right one out 1 inch. Then your pocket's going to be funny, and then the ball's going to go funny. So, we've got this lined up. Go ahead, back into our sidewall hole. Get any twists or anything like that out of there. Just give a little spin within your fingertips. Again, making sure, you know, that as these go out, this is my peak, a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, a little bit shorter, and then as we cascade in, again, we're coming from around inside the plastic through this new gap, or you drop it and you have to do it again like that, through the gap. And then this next one, as I come around the front of the leather, it's going to be even a little bit shorter as we help keep this curl to the pocket, get that round shape that's going to hold the ball. So again, come around from the back, through that gap, and we're on there. A couple more and we're looking good. Important again, keep these twist free. You don't want them bending up. That's going to create some slack, which over the course of the pocket is going to get funny. So now we're going to go into our next sidewall hole, and we just have 1 or 2 more of these left to go. And again, it looks really high-tech, really complicated, and some pockets are. But really this is just the same thing over and over and over. So again, I want to make sure my leather's pulled out the same distance coming back. Alright, and again, we're using the sidewall with the strikers like we're doing here, so that's the all-white string with these little blue dots. Maybe it shows up black, I don't really know. We can count those dots, so that this side over here, from this point to that point, will be the same distance as over here from this point to that point. With those strikers, it's really easy to kind of judge that distance. With the regular string, you just kind of have to count the seams. So, we're going to come back through here, finish up here in the bottom. We'll go ahead and raise this up. I think it fell down. Hopefully you guys were able to see the earlier stuff. Anyway, so as we're looking in, we've got our string one last time going across the middle, in front of that leather there. And now I'm going to go ahead, bring it around from behind, in through this gap that we just created, and then it's going to come down. So kind of pull that through, again making sure we're hitting this gap through here, keeping our leathers the right length, everything's nice and uniform. A mirror image on both sides, otherwise it gets funny. Alright, and so now we just have one more part to come back into the plastic here, this last sidewall hole. Bring that through, get that last little twist out of there. And I come in through the gap again, and then just come straight down. This will get tied off, but for right now, it's just going to hang out there. And I'll finish that way on the other side too. You don't have to even loop that, but it just kind of helps hold everything in place. So again, I want a nice bird's eye view, making sure everything's lined up the same, looking good. The other way you can tell now is pull the 2 ends of slack and see how they line up. And since we did the same amount of knots on both sides, they should be the same length. And once you get pretty good like I do, you'll get those dead on each time. If not, just make a couple adjustments, and again, no big deal. It'll all come out when we make adjustments, and we throw the pocket pounder in there, and we start tightening stuff. So as long as you're close at this point, that's good. So make sure your leathers are nice and even, and now we're ready to move on to the next section. So, again, I'm going to tie these guys here. Alright, so again we'll be using some of our white string with the blue strikers. We'll be filling in this section through here, and I'll go ahead and drop down the stick so you guys can see it. It's only fair. Alright. So, again this is going to start coming down, and I'm going to make sure these are nice and lined up through here from where we last left off. Again, those might have shifted a little bit. That's okay, we just make those adjustments now. So, simple stuff, we're just kind of doing the opposite. So now I'm coming around from the back of this first leather, and I'll go through this hole we've created, bring it towards the camera, pull this slack through, and again, we don't want to start pulling these leathers around, try and keep them in the same spot, try and keep equal tension on both of them. Now I want to bring it towards the gap, towards me. You guys looking at the front of the head, I'm behind it. So I'm pulling that through, bringing it around, make sure we're taking out any twists, any kinks in there, and then it's going to come back down to this leather, the skinnier one, in the middle. And now we're going to go in front of it, and now we're going to go from the back, coming through, going to this next gap. And again, we want this to kind of be right here in the middle, in between this knot and now this knot down here. Just like before, it was between the holes in the sidewall, now we're on the leather itself. And again, we don't want this super tight, because we're trying to make this channel, and ideally we want our two middle leathers to kind of come out just a little bit more than our outer leathers, and that's going to give us a nice little defined channel. So again, I kind of pull these leathers out, hold them in place, with our string coming from the back. Each time we switch it up. So we're going to come in from the back, try and give you a better angle, slide in through this hole we've made here, bring that slack through, again trying to keep your leathers where you want them, and now I'm going to bring this towards me through this gap. And there we go. And again, kind of creating a nice definition here, so my inside leathers are going to come out and kind of arc up more than the outside ones. Alright, no idea if those hand signals made sense. It kind of did from my angle. Alright, so again, we're going to come around the front, that leather, about partway down, coming from the back, we're going to go through our gap, and get that right towards the middle. Again, we want it tight, but we don't want it too tight so that they're even. We are trying to create this gap. And that's going to be the channel for the ball. If we have too much of a channel, the ball's actually not even going to sit on the leathers, it'll just kind of hang up on the strings. So you want to find that sweet spot. And again, string a bunch of sticks, you'll get good at it, you'll know what to do. Alright, so again, brought that down. Now from the back, we're going to come in through our next hole and get that on there. And then once again from the front, we're just pushing through, pulling this slack again, keeping those leathers straight, keep everything lined up, keep these leather channels defined how you want them. Alright, so if it's too tight, just back it up a little bit, pull some of that slack through, and you'll be good. Alright, and once again, we're going to come through the front of the leather, wrap around it, get that little twist out of there, bring it through from the back, through that gap we just made, and again, I want this to line up in the middle of the leather, between these two knots on the other side, just to my left. Should be good. And again, I'm going to come from the back, through that space, pull that slack through, and I want to bring this from the front to the back, through that gap we just made, that my hand probably just blocked, so come right through there. Alright. Looking good. So at this point, we're actually going to hold off and move to this side now, just to catch things up, and yeah, I think that's going to be the only reason. It's good. It's a good one though, so we'll go with it. So again, make sure this is still lined up here, these haven't gotten goofy. We're going to take our string and start from the back. So bring that around, and again, this string is going to come through this first hole here. There it goes. And again, if you need to, remelt the tips of your strings so you got nice little points, it'll slide through those holes easier. If it's really tight, get a little bit of spit on there, it'll go through. Just don't tell your customers. So again, we want to make sure our leathers, that bird's eye view, everything's nice and even. Alright, leathers are straight, we're not starting to curl over. So I brought in through there, and now's where I can kind of start glancing over towards my other side, so I can see I've got at least one, just a little bit more than that striker distance. So over here, let's see, we look like we got, there we go, just over one. And when I say that one, I've got like a whole distance between one striker to the other striker, and then plus the space. So we'll step that in a little bit. There There we go. And again, with those strikers, it makes it real easy to figure out if something's off, if you can't quite see it with the naked eye. So again, we're just going to move down. We go to the front of the leather, bring this through, and we're going around it. And now from the back, I'm coming through this gap we made. Again, I want this to loop pretty much in the middle between those two knots. And again, I'm going to look over here on this side. So for this range, it looks like just about just a little over 2 full sections between strikers. So looking at here, it's going 1, just about there, a little lower. Alright. And as we work towards the middle of the head, this is where we want to be more precise, because it's harder to make these corrections than it is to make corrections on the outside once we throw a ball or pocket pounder in there, or a spacer. And just save some time, go ahead and make these accurate now. So just over 2, we're ready. So again, I'm going to bring it down, and it comes in from the back on this side, through this little gap right here, pull that string through. And again, I'm going to see I had, looks like 1, just about 2 on the nose. So coming through here, make sure that's nice and straight. Make sure this hasn't sagged down any, because that'll throw off my count. And I've got 1, just about 2. Alright. So now again, I bring the string from the front through this gap, and that's going to lock off right there. And again, look at my striker, just about 2, just about 2. Again, get that bird's eye view from time to time. Make sure everything's lining up. We're not pulling into one side or one side hasn't collapsed. So we'll keep this going. We're going to come through the front of the leather, loop around it, and again, block it with your hands so the people watching the video can't see. And then we're going to loop around this one. So once again, we can start counting those sections in between the strikers. And on this side for this part, looks like we had 1, just about 2 on the nose again. So we've got 1, just about 2 on the nose, right about there. Alright, and again, we want to make sure these are lined up with the one just over here, and keeping everything nice and straight. Alright, and so again, now I'm going to come down here, into the bottom, into this slight hole we've made here, pull this slack around, get any twist or kinks out of there, and again we'll see we've got 1, just about 2, so I see 1, that's a little too loose there, tighten that up, that's just around 2, and pull this together. And again, get that bird's eye view, make sure everything's lining up, we're looking good, I like it. Alright, so again, we've got 1 more, and then we'll be caught up. So, we'll go in front of the leather, and then get that twist out of there. Now we're going to go behind and over through our gap. Once again, we'll check and see how many sections we have. This looks like just under 2. Sounds like a trend. So we'll come and do that over here, and we'll get just under 2 coming through. Again, we're not trying to keep your fingers out of the camera. It's a lot easier to string. So there we go, just under 2, making sure that's all lining up. I like it. And now we'll bring that again from behind, and it's going to come through our gap. I'm going to go ahead and raise this up again so you guys can see what's going on as opposed to guessing. Alright, so again, we've got our string here coming from the back in through this gap, I'm sorry, in through that hole. And once again, we'll look over here, and it looks like we did 1, just about 2. So we'll go ahead and do that over here too. So we've got, and again, you want to make sure your sides that you've just done haven't sunken down or gotten squished, because that'll change your measurements. So we're going right around 2, back this one up just a bit. And let's see, there's 1, 2, looking good. Alright, again, that bird's eye view, everything's looking nice and even. We want to keep that up. So, getting close, a couple more of these to do. We're going to go ahead, finish up this section, and then move on. So we'll keep going down this side. So again, I'm going to go in front of the leather, wrap it around, there we go, and bring it through our gap. And again, try and split the difference here between the two. Again, we're going to bring it from the back. It's going to go through this hole we've made and slide out, and we're going to put it back through that hole. Don't let it slide out this time. There we go. And bring it over. And again, we want to see how many we have over here, except we haven't done this side yet, so we'll just do it here. And again, start eyeballing it. Some guys will put like a pocket spacer in here while you're doing it to get the spacing. Again, you do enough of these and you'll just kind of get the hang of it. Trial and error. You'll get that spacing down. You'll get the feel of kind of what it should be. So again, we've got that. You come back to the middle, go around the leather. Again, get those twists out of there. And I come back through my gap and come back down. And so these will start to get a little tighter through here as we're bringing the pocket together at the bottom. But all the same rules apply, still tying all the same knots. So again, this needs to come in from the back. It's going to go through this hole, and then we'll pull up the top, and it comes around through our gap once again, nothing new, and down below. And then we're actually going to bring this to the middle leather one more time for right now. So it comes to the front, it's going to go over the leather as it comes down. Bring it from the back through our gap, and we're set up. I'll just take this end and just kind of drop it down for right now to kind of hold stuff in place. So that's looking pretty good, looking pretty uniform. And again, we'll come through, tighten everything up. Stuff might be off a little bit, we can make those adjustments then. So let's finish up this side, and then we'll actually probably take a pause in the video, move on to another section for the middle, because I need some water. Alright, so almost done here with this part, and we'll spin around so we can get a good idea. I'll actually give you guys the whole side. As you can see, this pocket's definitely taking shape, starting to come together. Alright, so as we're looking in, we're coming around the front of this leather here, and then wrap around from the back. I'm going to come in through this gap we made, and once again I can count how many sections I need to have, if I get a hold of the string, to keep this even. So if we look over here on this side, I see one, just about two. And again, this was getting a little bit smaller, a little tighter. So we're going to do that same thing over here. So there's one just there. Alright. Again, make sure everything, that bird's eye view, make sure everything's lining up right. Especially with these middle sections, you don't have to go back in and redo these much. They're a little more tricky. A little trickier, I guess, would be proper English. Alright. So again, that's all lining up. There, right to there. Yeah, that's actually a little long. Go ahead and tighten that just a bit. Alright. So now again, we're going to come around the back of this leather, in through this little hole, and we'll pull this slack forward. Again, we'll look on the other side, see how many sections we had. Looks like a solid 2 there. So go ahead and do that to this side. And there's a little more. That should do it. And then we bring it in through the gap, anchor that all together. And there we go. Solid 2 sections. And again, we want to make sure our stuff here on the side hasn't slumped down or gotten way up, knocked up high. So we'll keep that up, and just a couple more of these, and then we'll take a break from this video and move on to the next one to finish this guy off. So again, we're going to come through the front of the stick, and again we want to make sure our bird's eye view, everything's lined up, everything's nice and even. So I'm going to come around to the front of the leather, bring it around towards me in the back. Alright, and again, we'll check over here on this side, and it looks like we had 1, 2. So we'll get that dialed in there, bring our string around from the back through that gap again, and bring it over the front. Alright, just a couple more and we're good. And so again, make sure we've got the same distance. I know we're close to the end, but don't give up, don't get lazy yet. Alright. So again, on this side we had, looks like a distance about 1.5 to 2, and as you can see over here, well, I'm a little bit big, so we'll trim that in. There we go. And again, make sure these are all staying the same height, everything's lining up. Pocket should be looking good. Alright, just over 1 there. Tightened it a little bit too much, and once again, just kind of left my hand hanging out there, completely blocking the video. I apologize. Alright, so we'll go ahead and finish this section up. Come from the outside, in through this gap here, in through that hole, sorry, not one of the gaps. And again, we're going to see it looks like we've got about 1.5 sections through there. So we've got that about dialed in. I'll then bring the string through this gap again, and kind of twist that, get that tightened. Looks like we got a little loose, so we'll snake some more through. Alright, and then once again, we're just coming one more time in front of the leather. We'll go ahead and drop that down. A little bit of visibility. Maybe not. Alright. Shouldn't have messed with anything. We're going strong. Alright. So, we're just going to finish this up, coming around the front of the leather. Bring it in towards me in the back. Just going to want to try and keep all this stuff nice and even through there. Looks like we just have about one section, no problem. So we're going to come in through our gap, bring that up, and just kind of pull it around. This last little part we might end up redoing a little bit when we put our middle string in. That's okay, we just kind of want this to hold everything else in place. And again, drop this string down through the back, and that'll kind of hold it there. So again, we get a bird's eye view. Everything's looking pretty even. I like it. And I'll show you that bird's eye view that I was talking about. So, whoa, the stick is magically flying through the air. You can start to see the shape that's forming, how the leathers are hanging out at the same height, and how all these strings are starting to line up. So we're definitely making a lot of progress, and again, we should have about, I'm guessing 2 more videos from this tutorial series. I'll finish this guy up, one for the middle section and tighten everything, and then we'll probably do one special just for tightening, and then one for installing the shooting strings on traditional. Not a whole lot different than installing strings on a regular stick like a mesh pocket, but we do have some little tricks I'll show you guys. So again, this has been Coach Brian from LACROSSE.com. Thanks for checking out this video.